Hey YouTube, Sandy Frank here. Today's episode of Hobby Talk, I wanted to talk about a subject that, well, if I can get my camera to quit acting dumb, I want to talk about a subject that I've been thinking about lately, and that is the subject of regrading cards. Should you regrade cards? Is it wrong to? Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? I really want to hear what you guys have to say about this. And I'll talk about what I think. Excuse me. So now that PSA is beginning to allow more submissions right now, they've been doing the events where you can get economy submission allotments at $50. I have definitely started looking over some cards as possible cards to regrade. Definitely didn't want to spend big money regrading them, but if you have a nice card and you think maybe you got harshly graded by, maybe you got a tough grader, it might be worth your while to try to regrade a card. And I was going to show some examples of cards that at least I would think about regrading, and just talk about the whole subject of, is it even right to do that? Well, the number one thing I would look at, okay, so like this is a PSA 8 Bobby Witt Jr. At one time, this card was the highest graded. I think it still might be, and there's only been one grade, so it wasn't very many Bobby Witt Jr. autos in this product. And it's an on-card auto, and it got a PSA 8, which there is a slight little indent. These foil cards are very tough because they pick up little indents, but it's a tiny little indent. And would it be worthwhile to try to regrade something like this to try to get a higher grade? I personally, I don't think it would be, because another grader could easily see that little indentation and they might even give it a lower grade. And plus, it's such a low pop card, it's not going to make a huge difference if you got a PSA 9 or a PSA 8, honestly. Okay, so here's another example of a card. This is a super low print card. I'm pretty sure it's Pop 1. It's Anthony Rizzo red on card auto, numbered out of 5. This is number 3 out of 5. And I sent it in and it got a PSA 9. I thought, man, this card is really nice. And I was surprised that it only got the 9. But, and again, I mean, this is not a card I'm looking to sell. I actually think it looks great slabbed. It doesn't bother me that it has a 9. And really, there's no reason for me to try to regrade it to try to get a 10. Now here are some cards I'm really seriously considering. Like, here's one I have, this Luka Doncic. I know his cards have dropped down quite a bit in the last year, but he's starting to really play well again. And I picked this up in the Luka dip. It's a Court Kings PSA 9. You know, this is a card that I might think about trying to resend in to regrade. I'll have to look it over really closely. If I think it's a PSA 10 caliber card, I might try to regrade that. And here's another Luka. It does have the little printing line, so I think, even though it's not really the fault of the printing, it's just that's the way that these hollow patterns go. It's like a seam of the hollow pattern, so there is like a little printing line. So this card would probably never grade higher than that. So this would probably be a bad idea to try to regrade that, but it would be great to have that as a PSA 10. I just don't think it would get one. Okay, so I have this card. Now this is a good call, I think, is BGS cards just are not worth as much as PSA 10s. A BGS 10 is worth more than a PSA 10, but not the BGS 9.5, even though it's a gem mint grade and the card looks great. They often they have a decent chance at crossing over to PSA as a PSA 10. which you'd much rather have a PSA 10 of this card than a BGS 9.5, especially with no subgrades. So this is a card that I would think about doing it. I'd have to really look over it and see if I think that it could cross over to PSA 10. And for $50, I mean, I've already tried to send it in slabbed without breaking it out, and they would not cross it over. But I think that's just something that they don't do. They don't like to. And I gave a minimum grade, so I told them I don't want them to crack it out unless it's going to for sure get the PSA 10. So even though this is a high pop card, I think it would be worth taking a shot of breaking it out of the case and sending it in to try to get a PSA 10. And I have these two Patrick Mahomes Donruss Raid rookies. I definitely am planning, if I do get some more of these $50 allocations, I'm going to break these out and send them in. They look great. They are both gem mint, and they didn't have any 9s. They were all 9.5s on all the subgrids. So I think these have a really good shot at crossing over the PSA 10. And I just don't like the BGS slab that much. So I would love to have these as PSA cards. Keep one, sell one. And again, my philosophy is if I send both in, there's a really good chance at least one of them will get a 10 and maybe both. I think the worst case would I get 1 10 and 1 9 because they look very, very minty, and I don't think they would say, oh, no, those are both 9s. But you never know. That's a risk you take, I guess. But the price difference between a PSA 10 of this and a BGS 9.5 is really huge. Like, it doesn't even make sense. It's that huge. And I also have some Pokemon cards. Now, you know, if you've watched some of my PSA reveal videos, that there's been a lot of inconsistencies from grader to grader on Pokemon orders, seems like. So when I get a really tough grader, like this was, I think was a pretty tough grade. I never saw any issues with this card whatsoever, and it got a PSA 9. To me, it's worth it to crack this out and try for a 10 because this card is worth so much more as a PSA 10 than a PSA 9. And I think it could definitely regrade as a 10. This is another card that I think was harshly graded. They gave it a PSA 8. I thought it could potentially be a PSA 10. It's a really tough to get card, a promo, so I'm thinking about doing that one. I definitely want to do this. Another card that I think was overly harshly graded. There's nothing wrong with it. I'd like to try this for a 10. And this one, I don't know how, but it got a PSA 8, and it did not have, a lot of these have like a printing error where there's like some little white dots in the back. This did not have that, and it still got the 8, even though the centering's perfect. Everything about it looks great. So this would be a card that I feel confident breaking it out and try it for a 10. And I think this is happening because, okay, so PSA April 2021 shut down submissions, if you remember back. That's been almost a year. And they've had like $300 submissions that you could still do. And then they started opening up, I believe now you can send cards in for $100 is the cheapest one. You can just send a card in. You can do the 50s, but you have to actually win those slots, like in a lottery type system. So since the beginning of this year, when they first did like a $100 level, I've sent in 14 cards. 4 of them were $100 submissions, and 10 of them were ones I got the 5 card $50 slots. So out of those 14 cards, I've actually cracked out 4 of those cards to send in to regrade. So yeah, I am part of the problem if you think that regrading cards is a problem, but I actually think it's a good idea to do it, and we'll see how I do. When those orders come back, we'll look at the submission video, sending them in, and you can see, yeah, that was a bad decision, and then we'll see what they end up getting and see if it really was a bad decision or if it was a good decision. But what are your thoughts, like, as far as the hobby? Is it hurting the hobby for people to regrade cards? Some people do think that it does screw up the pop reports, which there's no doubt it does. There could be people that resend in cards several times trying to get a 10, and that's going to make the pop reports a little bit inaccurate, especially on a low pop card. Like, maybe the same guy sent the card in 5 times and got 9s 4 times, and one time you got a 10, those 4 9s actually don't really exist in the pop report, so they can skew off the pop reports a little bit. And the way you would not, if you just sent the card in slab whole like this, yes, they will crack it out and regrade it, but that number, I think, pretty sure they will take that out of the pop report. But if you crack it out yourself, you know, it's not gonna, they're not gonna be able to change that in the pop report. And the reason I think it's a good idea to crack it out yourself, if you're very careful, man, I should watch how I say that, because I don't want people to say, oh, Sandy Frank says you should break out cards out of their slabs. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you want to take that risk and are very careful about it, I think you have a better chance of getting a better grade if you do it yourself than you send in the slab like this. Because they're going to see the slab and they're going to say, well, Bob the grader graded this as a PSA 8. I'm not going to overrule what he graded it as. But if you send it in, break it out of the case and send it in raw, then they're going to take a fresh look at the card. No bias whatsoever. That's why I say that I think if you're going to do it, just go ahead and break it out of the slab. Maybe you can, there might be places that will break a card out of the slab for you. You know, if you're, you know, really nervous about doing it, which, trust me, it is a scary proposition trying to break these out, because one screw up and you could ruin your card. And as far as these, I have found that it is less scary to break out a Beckett slab because the card does have a inner sleeve, so the card is not quite as susceptible to getting damaged. It still could, like the PSA card does not have an inner sleeve. It's just a card sitting in the plastic. So if you crack this and break the plastic where it could scratch your card, you've ruined the card forever. So at least on a BGS slab, you know, also you're not screwing with the pop reports. You're taking a BGS slab that does not sell good and sending it to PSA and getting a PSA grade, and it's not affecting the pop reports. Anyway, I'm probably just talking in circles, but the bottom line is, I say it is okay for people to regrade cards, because, I mean, I believe in freedom, and that is part of freedom, is having the choice to send in your card to regrade. I mean, it's your card. Do it if you want. If you don't want to, you don't have to. Like, for instance, this Anthony Rizzo, there might be a lot of people saying, yeah, regrade that thing. That looks like a PSA 10, where it really doesn't make sense for me to do it, because it's a card that I'm going to have in my collection. I'm not looking to sell it. Now, if I was thinking about reselling this, I might consider it, because, of course, if this is a PSA 10, it's going to grade a lot higher than a PSA 9, and I really don't see any flaws with it. So I think it could easily get through as a PSA 10. Whereas this card, I would probably be doing it purely to, I have a PSA 10 already, so I would be regrading this purely to make this card more valuable to resell. So, and I don't think there's any way it could possibly grade lower than a PSA 8. So I don't think there's much risk in that, except for the risk of damaging the card trying to get it out of there. Anyway, what do you guys think? Maybe that's a good business opportunity for someone to be a professional PSA card case breaker outer to get your card out of a case to send in. Or do you think it's okay to do this, or do you think it's a bad idea, bad for the hobby? Are you trying to cheat the system by regrading a card? I don't think you're cheating the system, because if you look at how inconsistent PSA grades cards, you will find that, yeah, I think I can get this through as a 10, because just the grades vary so wildly from grader to grader. Anyway, stay tuned for more videos. Hope you enjoyed this subject. Please let me know what you guys think in the comments. Later.